The Mafia boss found his secretary locked in a basement, but the cruelest truth was that she had been waiting for him long before she disappeared. Snow buried the abandoned Chicago school as Roman DeLuca broke through the steel door with blood running down his hands. Inside, beneath a dying lantern, Evelyn Hart sat against the concrete, her wrists bruised, her body cold, and one terrible sentence trembling on her lips. I waited. Roman controlled judges' businesses and men who killed without hesitation, yet he had failed to protect the only woman who never asked him for anything. This is not only a story about betrayal inside a mafia empire. It is about the warnings we ignore, the love we recognize too late, and the price of believing loyal people will always remain. Stay until the end. Like the video and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. 3 days before Roman DeLuca found Evelyn Hart beneath the abandoned school, she stood outside his office with black coffee in one hand and a secret heavy enough to get her killed in the other. Chicago had not yet decided whether morning had arrived. The river below DeLuca Holdings looked like dark steel between the towers. Snow pressed against the windows, and the streets far below glowed beneath traffic lights that changed for almost no one. Inside the 42nd floor, every lamp was warm, and every door was locked except the one Evelyn had opened at 6:45. The executive floor felt different before the others arrived. Without ringing phones and polished shoes crossing marble, it revealed what it truly was. A collection of glass rooms suspended above the city, beautiful enough to impress strangers and transparent enough to make privacy feel dangerous. Evelyn preferred it empty. Silence made patterns easier to see. She placed Roman's coffee at the right corner of his desk, exactly 6 inches from the black leather blotter. He hated rings on the wood. He also hated sugar-weak handshakes, late reports, and people who said impossible before 9 in the morning. On the credenza, she left a wrapped gift for his younger sister, Lucia, a first-edition poetry collection. Roman had never read a line of poetry in his life, but Lucia had mentioned the book once. Evelyn remembered because Roman had been looking at his phone. Back at her desk, she opened 3 calendars. The first held corporate meetings and public obligations. The second held family matters that never appeared on company servers. The third was a leather planner containing the things no software could be trusted to remember. Changes in security routes, cars that appeared twice near Roman's home, deliveries without matching invoices, employees who asked questions they had no reason to ask. 3 entries had been circled in blue ink. St. Agnes property review, boiler inspection records, winter coat inventory. To anyone else, they looked ordinary. Her phone lit up. Unknown caller. She let it ring, then turned it face down. At 7:06, the private elevator chimed. 2 bodyguards stepped out first. Caleb Morris scanned the hall while Noah Price checked the glass offices. Roman emerged behind them with his charcoal coat open despite the cold and snow still caught in his dark hair. At 39, Roman had the controlled stillness of a man who understood that other people became nervous when he moved too quickly. Evelyn looked at the clock. 7:10. Roman followed her gaze. "You came in early." "You came in late." He checked his watch. "I am 4 minutes early." "Then we are both having an unusual morning." The corner of his mouth moved. It was not quite a smile. Roman's smiles rarely reached the surface. Most disappeared somewhere behind his eyes, as though pleasure were another form of information he preferred not to share. His attention settled on the coffee through the open office door. "You did not sleep." It was not a question. Evelyn lifted her tablet. "Your first meeting moved to 8. Legal needs more time before the construction review. Your sister expects you at dinner, and she requested that you arrive without bringing an army." She said army. She said 6 armed men. I translated. Roman looked toward the wrapped gift. "What did I buy her?" "A first-edition poetry collection." "Do I know anything about poetry?" "No." "Does she?" "Enough to know you did not choose it." And yet she will thank me. She loves you. That makes one of us." Roman said it lightly, but almost nothing in his voice was ever without weight. Evelyn lowered the tablet. "Lucia is not the only person who loves you." For one suspended second, neither of them moved. Then Roman's phone rang inside his coat. He looked at the screen and the softness vanished. "Move the security briefing to 10. The board is at 10. Move the board." "To where?" "Somewhere they can complain without me hearing it." "Conference room 3. He entered his office. At the threshold, he looked back. "Evelyn." She met his eyes. "Eat breakfast." Then he closed the door. She looked down at the thin red mark near her wrist where someone had grabbed her 2 nights earlier in the parking garage. Her sleeve covered it when she bent her arm. By 8:15, the executive floor had come alive. Assistants hurried between offices. Lawyers carried folders with colored tabs. Men who feared Roman laughed too loudly near his door, each hoping confidence might resemble innocence from a distance. Grant Holloway stepped off the main elevator at 8:27. He wore a navy suit, a silver tie, and the expression of a man who believed good manners could make any room forget to search him. At 46, Grant had spent years turning other people's trust into a personal asset. He stopped at Evelyn's desk. "You work too much." "So do you. I get paid to look worried. You get paid to make Roman look calm." Grant rested one hand on her desk. His cuff shifted, revealing a smear of black grease near his wrist. Evelyn looked at it. He noticed. "Elevator door. The elevators were serviced last month." "Then I should demand a refund." Roman's office door opened. Grant removed his hand. "Is he in a generous mood?" "He has never had one. That is why he keeps you." He walked inside without knocking. Evelyn opened her leather planner and wrote 4 words. Black grease, right cuff. Asked nothing. At 9:40, Roman's security meeting ended with raised voices and a shattered water glass. Evelyn waited until the final officer left, then entered and closed the door. The click drew Roman's attention. She almost never closed it during business hours. "What is it?" She placed a folder on his desk. "Someone has been requesting records connected to properties your family no longer uses." "What kind of records?" "Boiler access, electrical plans, maintenance schedules, basement storage, old security routes." His expression hardened. "Which properties?" 7 in Illinois, 2 in Indiana, 1 in Wisconsin." "Who requested them?" "The authorizations are valid, but the executives whose names appear on them deny signing anything." Roman opened the folder. "The requests came through facilities management," she continued. "I reported the pattern to internal security on Friday." "What did they find?" "They closed the report this morning." "Why?" "They called it an administrative duplication." Roman turned a page. "Send it to Grant." Evelyn did not answer. Roman looked up. "Grant oversees facilities management and the security budget." "You think he's involved?" "I think his office had access to every authorization." "That was not my question." She held his gaze. "I do not know yet." Outside the glass walls, employees crossed the corridor. No one looked directly into the office, though everyone knew the door was closed. Evelyn lowered her voice. "Someone followed me Thursday night." Roman went still. "Where?" "From the garage to Lower Wacker. A black sedan stayed behind me through 4 turns." "Why did you not tell me?" "I wanted to know whether it was connected." "You do not investigate threats alone." "You investigate threats alone every day." "I have guards." "So did the building where someone approved these requests." Roman's phone began ringing. He ignored it. "Did you get the plate?" "Partial. Illinois. 7K, possibly a 3. "I will have Caleb pull street cameras." "I already asked." "And?" "The footage from the garage entrance is missing." The temperature in the room seemed to change. "Who has access?" "Internal security." Facilities. Your private office. The door opened. Grant stepped inside carrying 2 contracts. He stopped when he saw Evelyn. I apologize. I did not realize this was private. His eyes dropped to the folder in her hand. Just for a second. Roman noticed. What do you need? The Ventra acquisition documents. The board is waiting. They can continue waiting. Grant smiled. Of course. As Evelyn passed him, the scent of cedar and tobacco reached her. The same cologne had lingered in the parking garage after the black sedan drove away. Her pulse shifted. She kept walking. At 11, Evelyn called Elena Ruiz into the records room. Elena was 27, bright, careful, and still new enough to believe competence would always be rewarded. She entered carrying vendor files against her chest. You asked for the St. Agnes records. Evelyn locked the door. I need you to make copies of these and take them off-site. She handed Elena a slim envelope. Do not scan them. Do not email them. Do not tell anyone you have them. Elena looked down. What are they? Insurance. For what? For the possibility that I am not imagining things. Elena studied her. You have been checking the hallway every 5 minutes. Tell Mr. DeLuca. I tried. Try again. Through the narrow window, Roman stood at the far end of the floor with Grant and 3 board members. Even from a distance, he controlled the space without raising his voice. He knows how to fight enemies, Evelyn said. I am not sure he knows how to recognize one he trusts. Elena lowered her voice. Do you... Evelyn thought of Grant's cuff, the missing footage, and the closed security report. I know enough to be careful. That is not the same thing. No. Evelyn pushed the envelope toward her. Take it home. Put it somewhere no one would connect to this company. What if someone asks? Tell them I gave you catering receipts. That is a terrible lie. Then look embarrassed when you say it. At 12:30, Roman entered a lunch meeting. Evelyn remained outside reviewing maintenance invoices. A payment to Hollis Mechanical appeared 3 times. Same amount, same approval code, 3 abandoned properties. She searched the company registry. Hollis Mechanical had dissolved 11 months earlier. Her phone vibrated. Stop digging. A second message followed. He will not save you. She forwarded screenshots to a secure private account, then deleted the messages. Her hands remained steady until she placed the phone down. At 2, Roman emerged with his tie loosened. He stopped when he saw the untouched sandwich beside her keyboard. I told you to eat. I was busy. You tell me that is not an excuse. I am usually right. And he carried the plate into his office. Evelyn followed. Roman divided his own lunch between 2 plates. Sit. Is that an order? Would you obey if it was a no? Then it is an invitation. They sat near the windows as snow softened the city beyond the glass. Roman turned her tablet face down. No work for 5 minutes. You have a call in 7. Then we have 2 minutes to waste. He studied her with the directness that made witnesses confess and executives forget prepared speeches. Why have you stayed at the company with me? Evelyn looked toward the river. That sounds dangerously personal. I am capable of personal questions. You are capable of asking them. Listening is less certain. I am listening. She traced one finger along the edge of her plate. Someone has to tell you when you are wrong. Many people tell me I am wrong. Not twice. A quiet laugh escaped him. It changed his whole face. For one brief moment, he looked younger, almost unguarded. Roman's expression softened. Are you afraid of me? No. Relief passed through his eyes. Evelyn continued. I am afraid of what people around you are willing to do because they fear you. The laughter disappeared. What does that mean? It means fear creates obedience, not loyalty. Is this about Grant? The office door opened before she could answer. Caleb stood outside. Mr. DeLuca, the state attorney, is on line 1. Roman looked at Evelyn. She waited. He reached for the phone. The moment closed around them. By 6:40, the floor had begun to empty. Snow covered the rooftops. Cleaning crews moved quietly between offices while the last lawyers gathered their coats. Evelyn added a note beside Roman's first meeting the next morning. Ask about St. Agnes. She underlined it twice. Then she opened a new email addressed to Roman. The subject line read, "In case I cannot explain in person." She attached financial records, access logs, and photographs of Grant's approvals. Her finger hovered over send. A shadow crossed the glass behind her. Evelyn turned. No one was there. She saved the email as a draft. At 7:15, Roman's sister called to ask why he was not at dinner. Evelyn found Roman at his desk reading the folder she had given him. His jacket hung over the chair. A glass of whiskey remained untouched. "Lucia is waiting." "I know." "Then why are you still here?" "I am reading." "She will forgive you for being late. She will not forgive you for pretending work is the reason." Roman looked up. "What is the reason?" Evelyn placed his coat across the desk. "You do not like restaurants where you cannot see every entrance. That is a security concern. It is also why you have missed her birthday dinner for 3 years. Roman studied her. You are unusually honest tonight. I may be tired. Or frightened." The word landed softly. Roman came around the desk and stopped close enough for her to see the faint scar beneath his left eye. "Show me your wrist." Her sleeve had shifted. The red mark was visible. Roman reached for her hand, then paused before touching her. "Who did that?" "I do not know." "Where?" "The parking garage." "When?" "Thursday." Anger moved across his face with frightening calm. "You said someone followed you. You did not say they touched you." "I got away." "That is not the point." "It is exactly the point." "No. The point is that someone put a hand on you and believed they could walk away." His fingers closed carefully around her wrist, avoiding the bruise. The gentleness was more dangerous than his anger. For 7 years they had built a life out of almosts. Almost saying too much. Almost touching. Almost admitting that ordinary mornings had become intimate because they shared them. Roman lifted his eyes. "Tell me what you need." The question was simple. It should have been enough. Evelyn thought of the draft email, the missing footage, Grant's cologne, and the message warning that Roman would not save her. She wanted to tell him everything. Footsteps approached outside. Roman released her hand. The distance returned. "I need you to go to your sister's dinner," she said. "That is not what I asked." "It is what I am answering." He took the coat. "Evelyn, please." Roman searched her face, then nodded once. At 8:20, the private elevator carried Roman and his guards toward the garage. Evelyn returned to her desk and opened the draft email. Before she could send it, the lights flickered. Her phone vibrated. A photograph showed Elena leaving the building with the envelope beneath her arm. "Delete everything or she disappears too." Evelyn closed her eyes. When she opened them, her hands no longer shook. She removed the files from the draft, copied them to an encrypted drive, and slipped it inside the lining of her leather planner. Then she wrote 3 entries across the next morning. St. Agnes donation review, boiler inspection, winter coat inventory. She tore out the page containing the address of an old DeLuca meatpacking plant and taped it beneath her desk drawer. It was not the real location. It was the place Grant expected Roman to search first. Beneath the address, she wrote one sentence. "The house is sick. Do not trust the men guarding the door. At 8:35, Evelyn put on her coat. The floor was empty. She watered the small plant beside her monitor, straightened the photograph of her parents, and placed her apartment keys inside the top drawer. If someone forced her into a car, she did not want them using the keys to reach her home. She carried the leather planner beneath her arm and entered the elevator. As the doors began to close, Roman's voice seemed to return. "Tell me what you need." Evelyn looked at her reflection in the steel. "I needed you to believe me," she whispered. The elevator descended. At 8:37, the lobby camera recorded Evelyn Hart stepping through the revolving doors into the falling snow. Across the street, a black sedan turned on its headlights. Evelyn saw the glow reflected in the revolving doors before she stepped outside. Snow fell in slow, heavy sheets, softening the edges of Chicago and turning the street into a corridor of white light. The evening traffic had thinned, but the city was not quiet. Tires hissed across wet pavement. A train rumbled somewhere above the river. Wind pressed cold fingers beneath the collar of her coat. The black sedan remained at the curb. Its windows were dark. Evelyn did not look directly at it. She adjusted the leather planner beneath her arm and walked toward the train station at the same measured pace she used every evening. Running would reveal fear. Calling Roman would reveal that she understood the danger. She passed the pharmacy on the corner. The sedan pulled away from the curb. It followed at a distance. Evelyn turned onto Wells Street instead of continuing toward the station. The car turned with her. Her phone felt heavy inside her pocket. She could call Roman. He would answer. He would send men. He would tear the city apart until he found her. But the photograph of Elena leaving the building remained on the screen of her mind. Grant did not need to threaten Roman directly. He only needed to know which innocent person Evelyn would protect first. She crossed at the next light. The sedan moved closer. A delivery truck blocked the street ahead. 2 men in gray maintenance jackets stood beside it. One looked at his watch. The other looked at her. Evelyn stopped. The black sedan rolled to the curb behind her. The rear door opened. A man stepped out. Daniel Cross had attended every DeLuca Christmas dinner for the last 16 years. Roman called him brother. Lucia called him Uncle Daniel. He had stood beside Roman at funerals, baptisms, and business meetings where men spoke softly because everyone in the room carried a gun. Tonight, he wore black gloves. Evelyn stared at him. Daniel gave her a tired smile. "You should have stopped asking questions." She tightened her hold on the planner. "You should have found a better accountant." His smile faded. The man beside the truck moved toward her. Evelyn stepped backward. Daniel raised one hand. "Do not make this worse." "For whom?" "For Elena." That name stopped her. Daniel took another step. "Get in the car." Evelyn looked toward the pharmacy. A cashier stood behind the counter, head lowered over a magazine. 2 people waited near the train entrance. None of them understood what was happening. If Evelyn screamed, Daniel might take her anyway. If she fought, someone else could be hurt. She looked at his gloves, then at the black sedan. Roman will know. Daniel opened the door wider. He should have known already. Evelyn climbed inside. The door closed. By 7:10 the next morning, Roman knew something was wrong. He stepped out of the private elevator and stopped. No coffee waited on his desk. The lamps outside his office remained dark. Evelyn's chair was empty. Roman looked toward Elena. She was standing behind the reception desk with a phone pressed to her ear. "Where is she?" Elena ended the call. "I do not know." Roman waited. Elena swallowed. She did not call. She did not send a message. Human Resources says they received an email requesting personal leave. Personal leave. Yes. Show me. Elena opened the message on her screen. Roman read it once, then again. The email was brief. It apologized for the late notice requested several days away and stated that urgent matters should be directed to Elena. At the bottom, Evelyn had written one word: "Regards." Roman stared at it. Elena watched his face. "What is it?" "She does not write like this. It came from her account. She signs her messages with her initial. Maybe she was in a hurry. She was always in a hurry." Roman took out his phone and called Evelyn. The line went directly to voicemail. He ended the call without speaking. Caleb appeared from the security corridor. "Mr. DeLuca, your 8 o'clock is waiting. Cancel it." Caleb hesitated. "The city commissioner is already downstairs." "Then he can enjoy the lobby." Roman called again. Voicemail. This time he left a message. "Evelyn, call me." "That is not a request." He ended the call. The words sounded wrong. They sounded like authority, not concern. Roman called again. The tone continued until the recording began. "Evelyn." He looked at her empty chair. "Please call me." The first hour passed inside a silence Roman could not control. People arrived with questions Evelyn usually answered before they reached him. Legal could not find the corrected merger documents. The board demanded to know why the morning meeting had vanished from the calendar. Roman's driver waited at the wrong entrance. Lucia sent a message asking why he had not called after dinner. A florist delivered white lilies for the mother of a junior analyst who had died during the night. The card was written in Evelyn's handwriting and signed by the company. Roman stood beside the flowers for several seconds. She had arranged them before she disappeared. At 9:30, Grant Holloway entered Roman's office carrying a tablet. He closed the door. "I heard Evelyn requested leave." Roman remained by the window. "Did she tell you no?" "Then why are you here?" Grant placed the tablet on the desk. "Because Human Resources asked whether I approved temporary coverage for her responsibilities." Roman turned. "Human Resources asked the Chief Financial Officer about my secretary. They are concerned about access permissions. Show me the email." Grant opened the file. It was the same message Elena had shown him. Roman read the technical header. The email had been sent at 3:16 in the morning. Evelyn never sent routine business messages at night. She scheduled them for 6:45 because she believed no one should wake to bad news before coffee. Roman looked at Grant. "When did you last speak to her yesterday afternoon? About what the facilities records? What did she say that she had found duplication in several old property accounts? Did she accuse you?" Grant's expression remained composed. "No." "Did she suspect you? I cannot answer for her." Roman moved closer. "Try." Grant met his eyes. She was thorough. Sometimes thorough people mistake patterns for intent. And sometimes dishonest people call evidence a pattern. The office became still. Grant's jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. "Are you accusing me of something?" Roman picked up the tablet and handed it back. "No." Grant appeared relieved for less than a second. Roman continued. "Accusations are what people make when they do not have proof." Grant left without another word. Roman watched him cross the executive floor. He did not look toward Evelyn's empty desk. That was the first thing Roman noticed. At 10:12, Victor Kane entered through the private elevator. He wore a dark wool coat and carried no phone. Victor had been Roman's father's advisor before Roman was old enough to understand what an advisor did. He had watched Roman inherit a criminal family at 19 and turn half of its money into legitimate businesses before 30. He found Roman standing beside Evelyn's desk. "What happened?" "She is gone." Victor looked at the untouched office. "How long since last night?" "That is not long. For anyone else." Roman opened the top drawer. Everything inside was arranged with exact precision. Pens aligned by color, receipts clipped by date. A packet of tea she drank only when she had a headache. Her apartment keys lay beside a small silver coin. Roman picked them up. Victor's face changed. She would not leave without those. No. Roman opened the lower drawer. Her gloves were inside. So was a pair of winter boots. Victor looked toward the windows where snow continued pressing against the glass. She left the building without gloves. Roman did not answer. His hand closed around the keys. He remembered the bruise on her wrist. Who did that? I do not know. Where the parking garage? When Thursday? He had let her walk out of the building alone less than 3 hours after hearing those words. Roman pressed the intercom. Caleb, lock the floor. Victor studied him. Roman. Every door, every server, every camera. No one leaves until I say otherwise. Victor stepped closer. Do not turn fear into evidence. Roman looked at the empty chair. She warned me. Then listen now. Elena entered carrying a folder. Her face had lost its color. Mr. DeLuca. Roman turned. She placed the folder on Evelyn's desk. I went to her apartment. You went alone with Victor's driver. What did you find? The door was locked. Nothing looked disturbed. Was she there? No. Elena took a breath. Her cat was hiding under the bed. The food bowl was empty. Roman stared at her. She would not leave the cat. No. Anything else? There were 2 plates in the kitchen. Victor frowned. 2. One was clean. The other had dinner on it. She prepared food, but she never came home to eat. Roman looked at Victor. She expected to return. Elena nodded. Her suitcase is still in the closet. Her passport is in the drawer. Her medication is beside the sink. Roman's voice lowered. What medication? For migraines. He had not known she suffered from them. Elena looked down. She gets them when she has not slept. Roman thought of every morning she had arrived before him. Every night she had stayed until he left. Every time he had told himself her calmness meant she was fine. Where is her phone offline? Credit cards. No activity. Family. Her parents are in Maine. They have not heard from her. Roman picked up Evelyn's keys. Call the police. Caleb looked surprised. The DeLuca family rarely invited law enforcement into private matters. Roman met his eyes. This is not family business. He looked at the empty desk. This is Evelyn. By noon, the executive floor had become an investigation site. Chicago police detectives moved through the offices, while Roman's private security team reviewed internal systems. The 2 groups distrusted each other instantly. Detective Sarah Mitchell took control of the missing person report. She was in her early 40s with tired eyes and the patience of someone who had spent years listening to powerful men explain why rules did not apply to them. She stood inside Roman's office and closed her notebook. Adults are allowed to disappear. Evelyn did not. You do not know that. I know her. Mitchell looked through the glass at Evelyn's desk. Do you? Roman's expression hardened. Victor shifted slightly near the wall. Mitchell continued. Does she have a boyfriend? Roman said nothing. A girlfriend. Number former partner I do not know. Close friends, Elena. Anyone outside work? Roman looked toward the city. Mitchell waited. The silence answered for him. You know her schedule, she said. You know how she takes your coffee. You know where she keeps your contracts. But you do not know who she calls when she is lonely. Roman turned back. She is not missing because I do not know her personal life. No. But you might be missing the reason. Caleb entered before Roman could answer. We have the lobby footage. The security room had no windows. A wall of screens showed entrances, elevators, parking levels, loading docks, and corridors. Evelyn had approved the system upgrades the previous year after finding 2 blind spots near the executive garage. Caleb played the final recording. At 8:37, Evelyn crossed the lobby wearing her dark coat. She paused beside the revolving doors and looked toward the street. Roman leaned closer. "What is she looking at?" Caleb enlarged the image. The glass reflected headlights from a vehicle parked across the street. Another camera should have the angle Mitchell said. Caleb changed the feed. Evelyn stepped onto the sidewalk. The image froze. When it resumed, the street was empty. Roman looked at the timestamp. 12 minutes. Caleb nodded. The recording skipped from 8:38 to 8:50. "Why we are checking." Roman looked at the access log. An administrator credential had opened the camera server at 8:36, whose credential Caleb did not answer immediately. "Mine." Roman turned. Caleb raised both hands slightly. "I was with you at Lucia's dinner." Victor confirmed it. Mitchell pointed toward the screen. "Could someone copy your credentials with access to the internal security network?" "How many people have that access?" 6. The list appeared. Caleb Morris, Noah Price, Daniel Cross, Grant Holloway, Roman DeLuca, Evelyn Hart. Roman read Daniel's name twice. Victor saw it. "No." Roman looked at him. Victor's face remained composed, but grief had entered his eyes. "Daniel was with your father before you were born. So was Betrayal." Grant arrived in the security room without being called. "I heard there was a problem with the footage." Mitchell glanced at him. Roman did not. "How did you hear Grant stopped?" "People are talking. This room is locked. I was told by facilities." "Which person?" Grant hesitated. Roman finally looked at him. "Names become difficult when they have to be true." Grant's voice cooled. "My office has system access because finance audits security contracts. That does not mean I altered anything. No one said you did. You did not have to." Mitchell stepped between them. "This is now evidence in an active investigation. No one touches the server." Roman's gaze remained on Grant. "Search his office." Grant's face changed. "You cannot be serious." Roman looked at Caleb. "Search every office." Mitchell objected. "You need consent or a warrant." Roman pointed toward the door. "Then get one." Grant walked out. This time he looked directly at Evelyn's desk. By 2 in the afternoon, every hour Evelyn remained missing changed the shape of the room. The employees no longer whispered about personal leave. They watched the elevators. They checked their phones. They spoke of her in present tense because anything else felt like surrender. A receptionist cried in the restroom after remembering Evelyn had arranged transportation for her son's hospital appointment. A security guard offered footage from his personal dashboard camera. A janitor brought Roman a folded note Evelyn had left for him about his daughter's school application. Roman accepted each fragment of her life without speaking. He had spent years thinking Evelyn belonged to his office. The building told him otherwise. She had belonged everywhere. At 3:40, Elena entered Evelyn's office and closed the glass door. Roman followed. "What is it?" Elena looked toward the hallway. "She gave me something yesterday." "What?" "An envelope." Roman stepped closer. "Where is it?" "At my apartment." "What is inside I do not know." "Why did you not tell me before?" "She told me not to tell anyone." "She is missing." "I know." Elena's voice broke. Roman stopped. The fear in her face was not fear of him. It was fear for Evelyn. He softened his tone. "What did she say?" "She said it was insurance. She said if anyone asked, I should call it catering receipts." Victor stood at the door. "Bring it here." Elena shook her head. "No." Roman's patience thinned. "No?" She believed the company was compromised. Bringing it back here would be doing exactly what she was afraid of. Victor looked at Roman. "She is right." Roman turned away. For most of his life, people had obeyed before he finished speaking. Evelyn had surrounded herself with people willing to resist him when resistance was necessary. He looked at Elena. "Take Detective Mitchell and 2 officers you choose." Elena nodded. "No private security." Roman agreed. As she reached the door, he said her name. She turned. "Evelyn showed you the photograph?" Elena went pale. Roman understood. What photograph? Elena's lips parted, but no sound came. Victor closed the office door. "Elena." She looked down. "Someone sent her a picture of me leaving with the envelope." Roman's face emptied of expression. "When last night? Did she say who sent it?" "No." "What did the message say?" Elena's eyes filled with tears. "She told me to go home and lock the door. She said not to answer anyone except her." Roman stared through the glass at the hallway where Evelyn had walked beside him for 7 years. Grant had not simply threatened her. He had given her someone else to protect. Victor spoke quietly. She went with them. Roman looked at him. Victor continued. If they threatened Elena, Evelyn would not risk a struggle in public. Roman's hand closed around the back of a chair. "She chose to protect someone because she believed I would not reach her in time." No one answered. The envelope contained copies of invoices, access logs, and handwritten notes. Detective Mitchell spread them across the conference table. Hollis Mechanical appeared repeatedly. So did 3 other companies that no longer existed. Payments moved through abandoned DeLuca properties, then disappeared into accounts controlled by a firm registered in the Cayman Islands. At the center of every approval chain was Grant Holloway. But Grant's signature did not appear on the final authorization. Daniel Cross's did. Roman stood at the end of the table. Victor read the document again. "It could be forged." "Everything could be forged," Mitchell said. "That is why we investigate." Roman looked at the security footage of the black sedan. A traffic camera had captured part of its license plate. The vehicle was registered to a private transportation company owned through one of the same shell corporations. Mitchell's phone rang. She listened for 30 seconds, then ended the call. The car was found near the river. Roman was already reaching for his coat. The sedan sat beneath a railway overpass with the driver's door open. Snow had gathered across the hood. Inside, investigators found no blood, no fingerprints, and no sign of Evelyn. Her leather planner lay on the back seat. Roman stopped outside the car. Mitchell put on gloves and lifted the planner. Several pages had been removed. The encrypted drive was gone. Roman looked beneath the seat. A thin strand of dark hair had caught against the buckle. He touched it before Mitchell could stop him. "Roman!" He withdrew his hand. Mitchell studied the planner. "Do you recognize these entries? St. Agnes donation review. Boiler inspection. Winter coat inventory." Roman shook his head. "They were not on my official calendar." Victor leaned closer. "St. Agnes. What the school?" Roman looked at him. Victor continued. "Your father bought an abandoned Catholic school on the south side through a holding company. St. Agnes. It was never renovated." Mitchell checked the city property database. No active utilities, no recent permits. Roman looked at the second line. "Boiler inspection. The basement," Victor said. The third line remained. "Winter coat inventory." Roman looked at the snow covering the sedan. She knew it would be cold. Mitchell raised a hand. "We need a tactical unit and a warrant." Roman walked back toward his vehicle. "Roman!" He stopped. Mitchell's voice sharpened. "If you enter that building before we clear it, you could get her killed." Roman turned. His face was calm. Too calm. "She has been missing for nearly 3 days. We are moving as fast as we can." "No." He looked toward the black sedan, then at Evelyn's planner sealed inside an evidence bag. "You are moving as fast as the law allows." Victor opened the SUV door. Roman got inside. The city blurred beyond the windows as they drove south. Snow covered the expressway. Red brake lights stretched ahead like a wound through the storm. Caleb sat in the front passenger seat speaking with Roman's men through an encrypted phone. Victor drove. Roman held Evelyn's silver fountain pen. He had found it inside the planner's spine, hidden beneath the leather seam. There was a scratch along the barrel. 3 letters had been carved into the metal. I.W.H. Roman turned it beneath the passing lights. Victor glanced at him. What does it mean, Roman thought of the message she had written beneath the false address? The house is sick. Do not trust the men guarding the door. He looked at the letters again. Inside, wrong house. No, Roman said. Victor waited. Roman's mind moved through every clue. The abandoned meatpacking plant, the false address beneath her desk, the camera credentials, Daniel's access, Grant's shell companies, St. Agnes. The house is sick. Do not trust the men guarding the door. Inside our house, Roman said. Victor's hands tightened on the wheel. The SUV turned off the expressway and entered a neighborhood of shuttered factories, old churches, and narrow streets buried beneath snow. At the far end of a dead road, an iron fence appeared. Beyond it stood St. Agnes School, 3 stories of dark brick, broken windows, a stone cross above the entrance. 1 light burned near the basement stairs. Roman stepped out before the vehicle stopped moving. The wind cut through his coat. Victor followed. The police are 10 minutes behind us. Roman reached the gate. A new steel lock held the old chain together. She has already given them 3 days. Caleb handed him a gun. Roman looked at the lock, then toward the basement light. He fired once. The chain fell into the snow. Inside the school, the air smelled of wet plaster and dust. Roman moved through the main corridor with Caleb and Victor behind him. Children's drawings still clung to the walls. Paper, suns, and crooked houses had faded beneath years of dampness. A portable heater hummed somewhere below. Roman followed the sound. At the basement stairs, he found one of Evelyn's coat buttons pressed into the dust. He picked it up. A faint scrape came from beneath the building. Roman descended. The air grew colder with each step. At the bottom of the corridor, a steel door waited beneath a weak strip of light. A heavy padlock hung from the frame. Roman reached for the fire axe mounted on the wall. Then he heard the battery lantern humming behind the door. Roman raised the fire axe and struck the lock. Metal rang through the corridor. The sound traveled into the walls, sharp and violent, then vanished beneath the steady hum. He struck again. The frame bent. Victor stepped closer. Move. Roman ignored him. The third blow tore the lock loose, but the door remained caught against the swollen concrete floor. Roman drove his shoulder into it. Pain cut across his arm. The door opened 6 inches. Cold air slipped through the gap. It smelled of rust, damp stone, and something faintly chemical. Roman pushed harder. The door scraped across the floor. The lantern sat near the center of the basement, its pale light rising and falling as the battery weakened. An overturned chair lay beside it. Plastic restraints had been cut and left near the wall. A bucket rested beneath a leaking pipe half full of cloudy water. Evelyn's coat had been folded beneath the pipe to guide the drops. Roman saw the coat first. Then he saw her. She sat against a support column at the far end of the room, one knee drawn toward her chest, her head tilted against the concrete. Her white blouse was torn near the shoulder. Dirt marked one side of her face. A dark bruise circled her wrist where the plastic restraint had pressed into her skin. Roman stopped breathing. Victor said her name behind him. Roman crossed the room. He did not remember dropping the axe. He did not remember reaching the column. One moment he was standing beneath the doorway, and the next he was on his knees in front of her. Evelyn. She did not move. He touched her cheek. Cold. Not the cold of winter air. The cold of someone whose body had spent too long fighting to remain alive. Roman removed his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. His hands shook so badly that he could not fasten it. "Evelyn, open your eyes." Nothing. He pressed 2 fingers against the side of her neck. A pulse answered. Weak, uneven, alive. The relief struck him with such force that he almost lowered his head to the floor. Victor knelt beside them. "Roman, the medical team is coming." Roman heard the words from a distance. Evelyn's lashes moved. Her eyes opened slightly. They did not focus. Roman leaned closer. "I am here." Her gaze wandered across his face. For a moment, fear appeared in it. Roman felt the expression like a blade. Then recognition came. Her cracked lips moved. He bent until his ear was near her mouth. I waited. The words were barely sound. Roman closed his eyes. His hand covered hers. "I know." Evelyn's fingers did not respond. "I know," he said again. Her eyes closed. Roman lifted his head. "Evelyn." She did not answer. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Dr. Miles Carter entered with 2 paramedics and Detective Mitchell behind him. Medical bags hit the floor. Instructions filled the basement. Roman remained beside Evelyn until Carter put a hand on his shoulder. "I need space." Roman did not move. Carter looked directly at him. "If you want me to help her move." Victor pulled Roman back. The paramedics placed oxygen over Evelyn's face. One cut the sleeve of her blouse. Another wrapped heated blankets around her body. Carter checked her pupils, her pulse, and the injuries around her wrists. "How long has she been here?" Roman answered. "Nearly 3 days." Carter's expression changed. He looked at the bucket, the coat beneath the leaking pipe, and the exposed wire near the restraints. She collected water. Victor nodded. Carter examined Evelyn's hand. The fingers had begun to swell. She cut one restraint herself. Roman looked at the torn plastic on the floor. A thin wire protruded from the concrete beside the column. Dried blood marked its edge. Evelyn had rubbed the restraint against it until the plastic broke. Carter spoke to the paramedics. "We need to move now." They lifted Evelyn onto a stretcher. Roman reached for her hand. Carter stopped him. "Not that one." Roman looked at the dark band around her wrist. He took her other hand instead. The stretcher rolled toward the stairs. Detective Mitchell crouched beside the overturned chair. She wore gloves and held a clear evidence bag. Inside it was a small brass key. The DeLuca family crest had been stamped into the metal. Roman stared at it. Victor's face tightened. "That key opens the private archive at the Gold Coast house." Mitchell stood. "How many people have one?" Roman answered without looking away. 4. "Name them." "Victor, Daniel, my sister, me." Mitchell looked at Victor. "Daniel Cross." "Yes." The paramedics carried Evelyn through the doorway. Roman followed. Outside, snow covered the courtyard in white silence. Red emergency lights moved across the broken windows of St. Agnes School. The ambulance doors opened. Carter climbed inside with Evelyn. Roman stepped up behind him. One of the paramedics blocked the entrance. "Family only." Roman looked at him. Carter spoke from inside. "Let him in." Victor closed the doors behind Roman. The ambulance began moving before he found his seat. Chicago passed beyond the small rear windows in blurred streaks of red and gold. The siren rose above the engine, but inside the vehicle everything felt unnaturally quiet. Carter worked over Evelyn with controlled speed. He asked questions without looking up. Full name, Evelyn Claire Hart. Age, 32. Known allergies, penicillin. Medication. Migraine medication. I do not know the name. Blood type O positive. Emergency contact. Roman opened his mouth. Nothing came. Carter looked at him. Who should the hospital call? Roman stared at Evelyn's face beneath the oxygen mask. Her parents live in Maine. Names I do not know. The answer filled the ambulance. Roman knew the code to Evelyn's office. He knew the exact time she arrived each morning. He knew she preferred blue ink, black coffee after noon, and silence when she was angry. He did not know her mother's name. He did not know whether she had brothers or sisters. He did not know who would come if she called from a hospital in the middle of the night. Carter returned his attention to the monitor. Roman held Evelyn's uninjured hand. Her fingers were cold inside his. The ambulance turned sharply. Her head shifted against the support pillow. Roman leaned closer. You are not alone. The words sounded false in his mouth. She had been alone. For nearly 3 days she had been alone because he had allowed an unanswered call and an empty chair to become ordinary. The monitor changed rhythm. Carter adjusted the oxygen. Roman looked at him. What happened? Her heart rate dropped. Fix it. Carter did not look up. That is what I am doing. Roman tightened his grip on the edge of the bench. The ambulance accelerated. At Lakeshore Mercy Hospital, the doors opened into a storm of white coats and fluorescent light. Evelyn disappeared through the emergency entrance. Roman followed until a nurse stopped him outside a set of double doors. You cannot come farther. He watched the doors close between them. For the first time since he was 19, Roman had nowhere to go and no order that could change anything. Victor arrived 20 minutes later. Snow had melted across the shoulders of his coat. Mitchell secured the school. Roman remained standing near the wall. What did they find? Food wrappers. 2 sets of footprints besides Evelyn's. The heater had been running until this morning. Someone was watching her. Yes. Where are they gone? Roman looked toward the double doors. Daniel. His phone is off. His house is empty. Roman's jaw tightened. Victor continued. Grant left the city shortly after noon. Then find him. I have people looking. Roman turned. No family men. Victor studied him. Why? Because I do not know who is still his. The doors opened. Carter stepped into the hall, removing his gloves. Roman crossed the distance between them. Tell me. Carter glanced toward Victor. Roman said it again. Tell me. She is stable. The word should have brought relief. It did not. Carter's expression remained too careful. What are you not saying? She is severely dehydrated. Her body temperature was dangerously low. The restraint around her right wrist compressed the nerves for an extended period. Roman looked at his own hand. What does that mean? She may have weakness, numbness, or reduced movement. For how long? We do not know. Roman's voice lowered. Will she use her hand again? I believe so. That is not an answer. It is the only honest one. Roman stared through the small window in the doors. Carter continued. She also shows signs of prolonged stress and sleep deprivation. Her body survived because she made careful decisions. She collected water. She conserved energy. She freed one hand. She did everything a person could do under those conditions. Roman remembered the wire and blood near the column. If we had found her yesterday, Carter was silent. Roman stepped closer. If we had found her 1 day earlier, would her hand be different? Possibly. Would her recovery be different? Yes. The word landed without mercy. Carter looked at him. She is alive. Roman, do not mistake that for being unharmed. Roman lowered his eyes. Yesterday he had sat through a meeting about warehouse expansion. Yesterday he had signed 6 contracts. Yesterday he had spoken to Grant and allowed him to walk out of the building, while Evelyn sat beneath St. Agnes collecting water one drop at a time. Carter placed a hand on Roman's shoulder. No one walks out of a locked basement unchanged. Roman looked toward the treatment room. Then neither do I. Carter left them in the hallway. Victor sat in one of the plastic chairs. Roman remained standing. Hours passed. Snow turned to rain against the hospital windows. Nurses changed shifts. Families entered carrying flowers and left carrying empty coffee cups. Somewhere down the hall, a child laughed at a television show. Roman did not move. At 3 a.m, Detective Mitchell arrived. She carried a folder and Evelyn's leather planner sealed inside an evidence bag. Roman looked at it. Where was the drive? Not in the sedan. Not at the school. They took it. Probably. What did they do to her? Mitchell opened the folder. Bruising suggests she was restrained in more than one position. There are no signs that she was moved after being placed in the basement. We found a portable table, a chair, and a laptop cable. They wanted a password. Yes. Did she give it to them? We do not know. Roman looked through the glass at Evelyn. If she had, they would have killed her. Mitchell did not disagree. She placed photographs on the empty chair beside him. One showed scratches on the basement wall. 3 short lines, 1 long line, repeated 4 times. Roman studied them. What is it? She made them with the brass key. Victor leaned closer. 4 groups. Mitchell nodded. She may have been counting hours or visits. Roman counted the marks. 16. They came 16 times. Or she stayed awake through 16 intervals. Roman imagined Evelyn in the darkness, measuring time by footsteps and lantern batteries. Mitchell placed another photograph down. Near the door, the lantern's battery cover had been removed. The wires inside had been bent into a deliberate pattern. She damaged it. Roman looked at the image. Why to make the light flicker? Victor understood. Through the gap beneath the door. Mitchell nodded. She created a signal. Roman turned toward the hospital room. Even after being taken threatened and left in the cold, Evelyn had continued leaving a trail. She had believed someone would notice. She had believed he would notice. Roman sat for the first time. The chair felt too small beneath him. Mitchell watched him. You need to tell me everything about Grant and Daniel. I will. Everything. Roman looked at her. There are things in my family you do not want to know. I did not ask what I wanted. He held her gaze. Then he began talking. He told her about old properties purchased through holding companies. He told her how Daniel had controlled security routes during the years when Roman's father was still alive. He told her about Grant's access to company accounts and the rival Calder organization that had been trying to enter Chicago through construction unions. He did not tell her everything. Not yet. But he told her enough to change the investigation. By sunrise, Evelyn had been transferred to intensive care. Roman entered her room alone. Machines surrounded the bed. Warm blankets covered her shoulders. Her right hand rested inside a padded brace. The room smelled of disinfectant and rain. Roman placed her silver fountain pen on the table beside her bed. He sat down. Without the movement of her hands, Evelyn looked unfamiliar. He had always known her through motion, turning pages, adjusting schedules, passing him a file before he asked, closing his office door when she knew he needed silence. Now she lay still while a monitor counted each heartbeat. Roman leaned forward. I should have listened. The machine answered with a quiet tone. I should have known when you closed the door. He looked at her bandaged wrist. I saw you were afraid. I decided there would be time to ask again. His voice roughened. There is always another meeting, another call, another reason to wait until later. He lowered his head. You were the only person in my life who never asked me for anything." The words remained in the room. Roman reached toward her hand, then stopped. Even unconscious, she deserved the choice. He rested his palm on the blanket beside her instead. Victor entered near noon, carrying a cardboard archive box. Roman looked at it. "What is that?" Evelyn kept it in a locked cabinet inside the records room. "How did you open it?" Helena had the key. Victor placed the box on the chair. "Every folder has your name on it." Roman lifted the first file. 6 months earlier, an overseas supplier had requested an emergency payment. Evelyn had noticed that one digit in the routing code differed from previous invoices. She delayed the transfer. Finance later discovered a fraudulent account that would have cost the company $4 million. Roman remembered congratulating Grant for catching it. The next file concerned a charity dinner. Evelyn had changed Roman's arrival time after learning that 2 guests had entered the country under false names. She told him the venue had a plumbing problem. He had complained for 3 days. The third file contained photographs of a gift sent to Lucia's home, a silver perfume bottle. Evelyn had intercepted it because the return address did not match the sender. The liquid inside contained enough poison to stop a heart. Roman read the report twice. He remembered Lucia calling to thank him for the flowers Evelyn sent instead. Another file documented a driver who had accepted money to share Roman's travel schedule. Another contained threatening letters Evelyn had removed from his mail before he saw them. Another listed security officers she had recommended for dismissal. 2 of those names now appeared in the St. Agnes investigation. Roman looked at Victor. How long did she know longer than we did? Why did no one tell me? Victor's expression hardened. She did. Roman returned to the box. Near the bottom, he found a small black notebook. It did not contain security codes. It contained names. Miguel Alvarez. Wife begins treatment Tuesday. Arrange meal delivery. Tanya Reed. Son has college interview. Ask legal department about scholarship fund. Marcus Lee. 5 years sober next month. No alcohol at department dinner. Caroline West. Father passed away. Send flowers after family returns home. Daniel Brooks. Recently diagnosed with celiac disease. Confirm kitchen protocol. Every page carried reminders for other people. Roman turned them slowly. He had built a company that measured time in contracts, acquisitions, and quarterly reports. Evelyn measured it in hospital visits, birthdays, grief, and small moments no one else remembered. Victor picked up a photograph from the box. It had been taken at the company holiday dinner 3 years earlier. Roman stood near the center of the image with a senator and 2 investors. He looked composed, distant, and entirely aware of the camera. Evelyn stood in the background. She was helping an elderly janitor carry dessert plates. Her head was tilted back as she laughed. Roman stared at her face. He had never seen that photograph. He had rarely seen that smile. Around him, Evelyn had always been alert, always listening for the next call, the next threat, the next problem entering the room. Victor sat across from him. "You love her." Roman did not look up. "Yes." The answer came without resistance. Victor waited. Roman placed the photograph on the blanket near Evelyn's hand. "I loved her like everything else I believed belonged to me." "That is not love." "No." Roman's voice was quiet. "It is dependence wearing an expensive suit." Victor looked through the glass toward the nurse's station. "You can change. That does not repair her hand." "No, it does not return those 3 days. No, it does not erase the moment she looked at me and said she waited." Victor met his eyes. "No." Roman looked at Evelyn. "Then change is not payment. What is it the minimum?" On the 4th morning, Evelyn's fingers moved. A nurse was adjusting the blanket when her left hand tightened slightly around the fabric. Roman stood so quickly that the chair struck the wall. The nurse called Carter. They checked her pupils and spoke her name. Evelyn did not wake, but her expression changed when Roman spoke. Her brow tightened. Her hand moved again. Hope entered the room carefully as though it did not trust anyone inside. Roman remained beside her for 4 more days. He left only to shower in the hospital office Carter arranged for him and to answer questions from Mitchell in a private consultation room. Grant and Daniel remained missing. Their accounts had been emptied. 3 DeLuca security officers had disappeared with them. Roman's captains began demanding permission to act. He refused every request. On the 8th morning, sunlight entered the room. Winter had not ended, but the storm had passed. The city beyond the window looked washed and pale beneath the rising sun. Roman had fallen asleep in the chair. His head rested against the wall. His coat covered his chest. One hand remained open on the blanket near Evelyn's bed. A voice entered the silence. "Your neck is going to hurt." Roman opened his eyes. Evelyn was watching him. For a moment he did not move. Her face was pale. Her hair lay loose around her shoulders. Exhaustion filled her eyes, but they were open. They knew him. Roman stood. "Evelyn." He took one step toward the bed, then stopped. She noticed. Her gaze moved to his hand, then to the space between them. "How long 8 days?" She looked toward the window. "I thought it was longer." Roman swallowed. The basement was almost 3. Her attention lowered to the brace around her right hand. She tried to move her fingers. Pain crossed her face. Roman reached forward instinctively. Evelyn pulled her hand closer to her body. He stopped. The movement was small. It changed everything. "I am sorry," he said. She closed her eyes. Roman waited. After several seconds, she asked, "Did you find the drive? No." "Then Grant has it." "We do not know." "He does." Her breathing changed. Roman moved toward the call button. "I will get Carter." "No." Her voice was weak but firm. Roman remained where he was. Evelyn looked at him again. "You found me." The words did not sound grateful. Roman understood. "I should have noticed you were gone." Her eyes filled, but no tears fell. "I kept thinking you would." Roman lowered his head. "I know." "No, you do not." Her voice trembled. "They turned the light off whenever I refused to answer. I could hear them outside the door. Sometimes they left for hours." She looked toward the ceiling. I did not know whether it was morning or night. Roman's jaw tightened. Evelyn saw it. "Do not." What do not make that face like anger is the same as caring. The words struck cleanly. Roman forced his hands to open. "You are right." She looked at him with exhausted disbelief, as though she had expected resistance and did not know what to do without it. Roman continued. "I want to kill them." Her eyes shifted toward him. "I want to make them afraid before they die." He spoke without pride. "But that is not what you need." Evelyn looked at her injured hand. "I do not know what I need. You do not have to." She was silent. Roman moved back to the chair and sat down. The distance seemed to calm her breathing. After a while, she asked, "Who is managing the office?" "No one." Her mouth tightened faintly. "That sounds efficient. The position is gone." Evelyn turned toward him. "What do you mean? No one person will carry my schedule, my security, my family obligations, and the failures of every department again. You cannot rebuild the company because you feel guilty. Then I will rebuild it because it was wrong." She studied him. Roman did not look away. "The people responsible for the security failure are suspended. Every account and property authorization is being reviewed. Detective Mitchell has full access. You gave police access to DeLuca records." Yes, Victor agreed to that. No. From the hallway, Victor's voice carried through the partially open door. I eventually stopped arguing. Evelyn's lips almost curved. The expression disappeared quickly. She looked at Roman. I am not coming back as your secretary. I know. The building may never feel safe to me again. Then do not enter it. She frowned. Roman continued. You owe me nothing. Not another schedule. Not another warning. Not another hour of your life. His throat tightened. Whether you forgive me is yours. Whether you ever speak to me after you leave this hospital is yours. Evelyn looked away. Roman stood. He took the silver fountain pen from the table and placed it within reach of her left hand. Carter entered with a nurse. Roman moved toward the door. Evelyn spoke before he reached it. Roman. He turned. Fear had returned to her face. Not fear of him. Fear of something beyond the room. Grant asked for the password 16 times. Roman waited. I never gave it to him. Where is the evidence? Her eyes moved toward the pen. Roman looked at it. Evelyn's voice dropped. The drive was never in the planner. Roman stared at her. She looked toward the hospital door. Grant is still looking for it. Roman's attention shifted to the corridor where strangers moved past beneath the white lights. Evelyn pulled the blanket closer around herself. Then this is not over. Roman looked at the silver fountain pen resting beside Evelyn's hand. The pen had been with her for 7 years. She carried it through board meetings, hospital visits, security briefings, and every quiet morning when she arranged Roman's life before he arrived to live it. He picked it up carefully. What did you do? Evelyn glanced toward Dr. Carter and the nurse. I need a minute alone with him. Carter studied the monitor. 1 minute. The nurse followed him into the corridor. Roman closed the door. Evelyn watched him turn the pen beneath the light. The barrel unscrews. Roman twisted the silver casing. Nothing happened. Not that direction, she said. Push the clip down first. He pressed the clip. A small mechanism released inside the pen. The lower barrel loosened, revealing a narrow black cylinder hidden beneath the ink cartridge. Roman held it between his fingers. The encrypted drive was barely larger than a grain of rice. Evelyn had carried the evidence in her hand every day. Grant had searched her planner. He had questioned her 16 times. He had locked her in a basement and left her in the cold. The drive had remained inside the one object no one thought to examine. Roman looked at her. You carved letters into the pen. I needed you to understand that the address under my desk was wrong. You knew they would find the planner. I hoped they would. And the real location, I placed it in the calendar. Roman closed his hand around the drive. You planned all of this before you left the building. I planned enough to survive being followed. Her voice weakened. Roman moved toward the call button. Evelyn stopped him. The password matters more. You need to rest. Grant is gone. Daniel is gone. If they know the drive still exists, they will keep searching. They will not reach you again. She looked at him. The silence between them carried the memory of the basement. Roman corrected himself. I will do everything I can to make sure they do not reach you again. Evelyn's expression softened by a fraction. The files are encrypted. 3 failed attempts erase everything. What is the password? She studied his face. The first sentence you ever said to me. Roman remembered the interview. 7 years earlier, Evelyn had walked into his office wearing a gray suit she could barely afford. 2 senior managers had followed her inside, both explaining why she was too young and too inexperienced to manage Roman's schedule. She had waited until they stopped talking. Roman had looked at the single-page resume in front of him. Everyone in this building lies. Tell me something true. Evelyn had not hesitated. You need me more than you think. Roman met her eyes. That is the password. Yes. He almost smiled. You planned that 7 years ago, no. I chose it because you would remember. Roman slipped the drive into his pocket. I remember everything you say. Evelyn looked away. That was never the problem. The words remained with him as he left the room. Victor stood beside the nurse's station. Detective Mitchell was speaking with two uniformed officers near the elevator. Roman walked directly toward her. I have the drive. Mitchell stopped speaking. Where was it in the pen? She looked toward Evelyn's room. Has anyone else seen it? No. Do not connect it to a hospital computer. I know. You have people inside your company who can copy whatever is on it. I have people inside my company who helped put her in that basement. Mitchell watched him carefully. Then we use police equipment. Victor stepped forward. Police systems are not beyond corruption. Mitchell turned toward him. Neither is your family. Victor accepted the answer without argument. Roman removed the drive from his pocket and placed it in Mitchell's gloved hand. 3 failed passwords erased the files. Do you know the password? Yes. Write it down. No. Mitchell's expression tightened. Roman continued. I will enter it. You are not touching the evidence after this moment. Then hold the keyboard. Victor sighed. Mitchell looked at Roman for several seconds, then placed the drive inside an evidence bag. There is a secure digital forensics unit downtown. Roman glanced through the window of Evelyn's room. I am not leaving her. You brought me the evidence. I will handle it. No. Mitchell lowered her voice. You do not trust anyone. I trusted Daniel. That is not an answer. It is the only one I have. Victor placed a hand on Roman's arm. I will stay with her. Roman looked at him. Victor continued. She needs you to finish this. Evelyn lay beneath the hospital light, her face turned toward the window. Roman had spent years calling control protection. Now the most protective thing he could do was leave her room and follow the evidence she had risked her life to preserve. He looked at Mitchell. Let us go. The digital forensics unit occupied the lower floor of a government building near the river. The corridors smelled of old carpet and burnt coffee. There were no marble walls, no private elevators, and no men standing near the doors with concealed weapons. Roman felt more exposed there than he had inside the abandoned school. Mitchell led him into a windowless room. A technician named Aaron Cole sat behind 3 monitors. He wore thick glasses and a shirt with coffee stains near the cuff. He glanced at Roman, then at Mitchell. This is the device. Yes. Cole opened the evidence bag. It is smaller than I expected. The woman who hid it expected people to underestimate her, Roman said. Cole connected the drive through an isolated reader. A black window appeared on the central screen. Password required. Mitchell positioned herself beside the keyboard. Roman gave her the sentence. She typed each word. Everyone in this building lies. Tell me something true. The screen remained still. Roman's chest tightened. Then a second box appeared. Response. Mitchell looked at him. Roman answered. You need me more than you think. She typed the words. The screen changed. Folders appeared. Property records, security access, financial transfers, Calder contacts, Cross, Holloway, employee files. Cole leaned closer. This is extensive. Roman stared at the final folder. What employee files? Mitchell opened it. Names filled the screen. Drivers, accountants, receptionists, security officers, warehouse workers, family members, addresses, medical conditions, debt records, school information, photographs taken outside homes. Roman felt something cold move through him. Grant had not simply stolen money. He had collected weaknesses. Cole opened the folder marked Holloway. Bank transfers moved through 4 shell companies connected to abandoned DeLuca properties. The money crossed state lines, passed through a construction fund in Nevada, then entered accounts controlled by Grant. The total exceeded $40 million. Mitchell examined the dates. This began 4 years ago. Victor had joined them by secure video from the hospital. His face appeared on the monitor near the wall. Grant joined the company 12 years ago. Roman looked at the transaction records. He waited until we trusted him. Cole opened the Calder contacts folder. Messages revealed meetings between Grant and representatives of the Calder Syndicate, a rival organization that had spent years trying to enter Chicago through labor contracts and shipping routes. Grant promised them access to DeLuca financial record security schedules and political contacts. In return, the Calders promised him protection and control of the legal company after Roman was removed. Mitchell scrolled through the messages. How were they planning to remove you? Cole opened an audio file. Grant's voice filled the room. Roman does not investigate betrayal. He destroys it. Give him the wrong name, and he will begin a war before sunrise. Another voice answered. Daniel, the captains already believe the Calders are moving against us. Grant spoke again. Once Roman retaliates, the police will lock down the city. The board will remove him from the company. His men will turn on each other. We take what remains. Roman listened without moving. Daniel's voice returned. And the secretary. She has the records. She is close to him. That is useful. How? If she disappears, he stops thinking. The recording ended. The room remained silent. Mitchell watched Roman. Grant had understood him. He knew Roman would respond to pain with violence. He knew the family captains would follow. He knew Evelyn's disappearance could become the match that burned everything. Roman looked at the screen. He wanted me to attack the Calders. Yes, Mitchell said. He left the false address under her desk. Evelyn left it. She knew Grant would find it. She knew he would expect me to go there. Mitchell nodded. She gave you a false location because the people watching her would need to believe she had given you something. Roman thought of the burning meatpacking plant. Grant had prepared the trap because he believed the address was Evelyn's only clue. She had used his confidence against him. Cole opened the folder marked Cross. Daniel's security credentials had accessed the camera network property records and Roman's private route schedules. There were photographs of Daniel meeting Grant inside restaurants, parking garages, and a lake house in Wisconsin. The earliest image was dated 3 years before Evelyn's abduction. Roman stared at it. Daniel had attended Lucia's birthday dinner the same week. He had raised a glass to Roman's father. He had called Roman brother. Victor's voice came through the monitor. Roman. Roman did not answer. Cole opened a final document. It was a written contingency plan. If Evelyn surrendered the password, she would be killed and left inside the meatpacking plant before it burned. If she refused, she would be moved to St. Agnes and kept alive until Grant secured the files elsewhere. Once the files were recovered, Daniel would use a DeLuca key to enter the basement and remove her body. Roman looked at the brass key resting inside Mitchell's evidence case. They planned to make it look like someone in my family killed her. Mitchell nodded. The key would have connected the crime scene to your house. Daniel would accuse one of the captains, and you would retaliate. Roman read the contingency plan again. At the bottom was a list of names: Calder leaders, DeLuca captains, police officers, union representatives, people Grant expected to die during the conflict. More than 30 names. Evelyn's was written at the top. Roman stepped away from the screen. His phone vibrated. Unknown number. Mitchell saw it. Put it on speaker. Roman answered. Grant's voice came through the phone. You found the drive. Roman looked at Mitchell. She signaled to Cole, who began tracing the call. Where are you? Grant laughed quietly. You sound tired. You put her in that basement. She put herself there when she refused to cooperate. Roman closed his eyes for 1 second. Grant continued. I gave her 16 opportunities to walk away. You gave her 16 opportunities to betray innocent people. She was a secretary. Roman opened his eyes. No. She was the only person in my company who understood what you were doing. She understood enough to become inconvenient. Mitchell wrote a question on a sheet of paper. What do you want? Roman read it aloud. What do you want? The original ledgers are still missing. You stole $40 million. Why do you need paper records? Because your father kept names outside the official accounts. Judges, police, politicians, men who owe the DeLuca family favors. Roman looked at Victor's image on the monitor. Victor's expression changed. Grant knew about the private archive. Daniel had given him the key. Grant continued. I want the ledgers and safe passage out of the country, and in return I give you Daniel. Roman remained silent. Grant laughed again. You still believe this was his idea. I believe neither of you will leave Chicago. You have until midnight. The call ended. Cole removed his headset. Signal moved through 3 towers. The final connection came from downtown near the river. Mitchell looked at Roman. He wants you to bring the ledgers. He does not need them. What? The names are worthless without my father's authentication codes. Grant knows that. Then why ask? Roman looked at the list of employee files. He wants me to come personally. Victor spoke from the monitor. It is another trap. Yes. Mitchell gathered the printed documents. Then we do not go. Roman looked at her. We go. No. He expects me. That is why you do not go. If I do not, he disappears. We have the financial evidence. We can arrest him when we find him. You have not found him. Mitchell stepped closer. You are not using this department to arrange an execution. Roman's voice remained calm. I am arranging a meeting with 2 armed fugitives who kidnapped and tortured a woman. Yes. And you expect me to believe you will walk in without planning to kill them. Roman looked at the employee names on the screen. No. Mitchell waited. Roman continued. I want to kill them. Victor closed his eyes. Roman did not soften the words. I want Grant to understand every second Evelyn spent in the dark. I want Daniel to look at me and know he chose the wrong family to betray. Mitchell held his gaze. Then you cannot be the man who decides their punishment. Roman looked back at the screen. Grant had built the entire plan around the certainty that Roman would choose blood. Evelyn had risked everything to expose the truth. If Roman answered that truth with an unrecorded killing, Grant would still control the final act. Roman removed the gun from beneath his coat. Mitchell's hand moved toward her own weapon. Roman placed his gun on the table. He wants the man I used to be. Mitchell looked at the weapon. What are you offering a recorded meeting? Your officers outside. Federal agents if you need them. And the ledgers. Copies. Will he know? Not until he opens them. Victor spoke from the monitor. The captains will call this weakness. Roman looked at him. Let them. They may leave. Then they were never mine. The meeting was arranged for 11:30 that night. Grant chose Bellini's, a closed Italian restaurant beside the Chicago River. The restaurant had belonged to a DeLuca ally for decades. Its owner died the previous year, and the building had remained empty while the estate fought over the property. Grant believed he knew every entrance. He did not know Evelyn had approved a new fire access route during a safety inspection 6 months earlier. Mitchell positioned officers in the kitchen, the basement, and the building across the river. Federal agents waited near the loading entrance. Roman wore a recording device beneath his shirt. Victor met him outside the hospital before the operation. Snow had begun falling again. You should tell Evelyn. She needs rest. She will learn from someone else. Roman looked toward the hospital windows. If I tell her, she will think she has to stop me. Does she? Roman thought of the gun resting inside Mitchell's evidence locker. No. Victor adjusted Roman's coat collar the way he had when Roman was 19 and preparing to attend his father's funeral. Daniel will try to make this personal. It is personal. That is why he will try. Roman looked at him. If I do not return, do not let anyone place Evelyn under DeLuca protection without her permission. Victor's expression hardened. You are returning. Roman opened the car door. That is not an answer. Victor waited. I will ask her, he said. Roman nodded. At 11:28, Roman entered Bellini's alone. The dining room was dark except for one lamp above a table near the windows. Dust covered the chairs. White cloths hung over framed paintings and bottles behind the bar. The river moved beyond the glass, black and silent beneath the snow. Grant sat at the table. Daniel stood near the bar with a gun at his side. Roman stopped. Daniel looked older than he had 8 days earlier. His suit was wrinkled. Gray stubble covered his face. Grant appeared untouched. A glass of red wine rested near his hand. Roman Grant said, You came. You threatened a woman who schedules my meetings. I could hardly be late. Grant smiled. Daniel did not. Roman placed a leather case on the table. The ledgers. Grant reached toward it. Roman kept one hand on the handle. Evelyn. Grant's smile faded. What about her? Tell me what you did. Daniel shifted near the bar. Grant leaned back. You already know. I want to hear you say it. Why? Because men like you prefer other people to carry the language of your crimes. Grant studied him. You think this is a confession? I think you enjoy believing you are smarter than everyone else. Grant's pride answered before caution could stop it. She found the property transfers. I asked her for the files. She refused. You had her followed. Yes, you threatened Elena. She needed motivation. Roman's hands remained at his sides. Daniel watched him closely. Grant continued. We took her outside your building. No one noticed. Roman looked toward Daniel. You were there. Daniel's jaw tightened. She entered the car willingly. You threatened a 27-year-old assistant. She made a choice. No. You removed every safe choice and called the result consent. Daniel looked away. Grant poured more wine. She was difficult. I will give her that. We questioned her for hours. She never gave us the password. You hurt her hand. She injured herself on the restraint. Roman saw the basement again. The wire, the blood, the dark bruise around Evelyn's wrist. His fingers curled. Daniel noticed. Roman. His voice carried an old familiarity. Do not listen to him. Roman turned. Daniel lowered his gun slightly. This was supposed to be business. You put her beneath St. Agnes. I did not choose the school. You used my family key to leave a trail. Toward whom Daniel said nothing. Roman stepped closer. Which captain were you going to blame? Grant answered for him. Vincent Caruso. Roman looked at Daniel. Vincent had been Daniel's closest friend for 20 years. You were going to start a war against Vincent. Daniel's face hardened. Vincent would have taken your place. That was his crime. He was waiting for weakness. Roman looked around the empty restaurant. And you found it in a woman. Grant laughed. You still do not understand. Evelyn was never the weakness. Roman's gaze returned to him. Grant lifted the wine. You were. The words entered the room quietly. Grant continued. She arranged your life. She filtered your information. She made decisions you never knew existed. Remove her and everything around you begins to fail. Roman did not answer. You called it loyalty, Grant said. I called it dependence. Roman thought of the archive box beside Evelyn's hospital bed. Every threat she intercepted. Every person she remembered. Every burden she carried without being asked. Grant had seen the truth before Roman did. He had simply used it differently. Grant leaned forward. She gave you the illusion of control. Roman looked at him. No. Grant waited. She gave me time to become careless. Daniel shifted again. Open the case. Roman released the handle. Grant pulled the case toward him and entered a code into the lock. Inside were 3 black ledgers. He opened the first. The pages appeared authentic. He turned to the final section. Blank paper. Grant looked up. Roman stepped back. Daniel raised his gun. You brought copies. I brought enough. Grant stood. Where are the originals safe? Daniel aimed at Roman's chest. Tell him. Roman looked at the weapon. You taught me to shoot when I was 14. Daniel's hand tightened. Do not make me use it. You already used everything my father gave you. Daniel's face twisted. Your father gave me nothing. I protected him for 20 years. I buried friends for him. I watched him hand the family to a boy who wanted to turn soldiers into office workers. Roman took another step. Daniel lifted the gun higher. You thought kindness would make us legitimate. No. Roman stopped. I thought money would. Grant moved toward the rear exit. Roman looked at him. You should stay. Grant reached inside his coat. The restaurant doors opened. Police entered from the kitchen and front corridor. Red laser sights moved across Grant's chest. Federal agents appeared near the bar. Mitchell's voice filled the room. Hands where we can see them. Daniel kept his gun aimed at Roman. Grant froze. For 1 second, no one moved. Daniel looked at Roman. You brought police into a family matter. Roman looked at the gun. You put an innocent woman in a basement. She was not innocent. She had the files. She was doing her job. She chose you. Roman's voice lowered. No. She chose the people whose names Grant collected. Grant looked toward the nearest exit. Mitchell stepped into the room. Do not move. Grant raised his hands. Daniel did not. His eyes remained on Roman. You would hand your brother to strangers. Roman stepped closer until the gun was inches from his chest. You stopped being my brother before Evelyn entered that car. Pain crossed Daniel's face, then anger replaced it. You have become weak. Roman looked at him. I came here without a gun. Daniel's eyes shifted. The statement unsettled him more than a threat would have. Roman continued. You needed me angry. Grant needed me violent. Both of you built everything around the belief that I could not choose anything else. Daniel's breathing changed. Roman took one final step. Put it down. For a moment, Daniel looked as if he might fire. Then his arm lowered. The gun struck the floor. Officers moved in. Grant began shouting as they placed him against the table. This company belongs to me. I built the financial system. Roman knows nothing without that woman whispering in his ear. Mitchell secured his wrists. Grant looked at Roman. She will never trust you again. Roman stood near the window. Snow moved across the river. I know. Grant's expression faltered. He had expected denial. Roman looked at Daniel as officers led him away. There was no satisfaction in the room, only an empty space where family had once stood. By morning, news vans surrounded DeLuca Holdings. Reporters filled the sidewalk. Cameras pointed toward the glass tower. Headlines spread across every screen inside the building. DeLuca executives arrested in money laundering investigation. Employee abduction connected to corporate conspiracy. Roman DeLuca cooperates with federal authorities. The board assembled before 9. Some members demanded silence. Others demanded Roman's resignation. The company attorney advised him to issue a short statement denying personal knowledge. Roman listened until everyone finished. Then he placed Evelyn's employee badge in the center of the conference table. The room became quiet. "This belongs to Evelyn Hart." No one moved. She reported suspicious property records. Internal security closed her complaint. "She warned my office. I failed to act with the urgency her warning deserved." The attorney leaned forward. "Roman, we should not discuss personal responsibility before the review is complete." Roman looked at him. "The review is complete enough to know she spent 3 days in a basement." Several board members lowered their eyes. Roman continued. "Grant Holloway and Daniel Cross did not create every failure alone. They used a system that rewarded silence. They used divided departments, unchecked authority, and employees who were too afraid to question senior leadership." A board member named Charles Weaver folded his arms. "You are exposing the company to enormous liability. The company is already exposed. We can control the narrative." Roman looked through the glass walls at the employees standing outside. "The narrative is that a woman told the truth, and we made it dangerous." No one interrupted him again. Roman announced an independent review of every security contract, financial account, and property authorization. He removed private security from financial oversight. He established anonymous reporting through an outside firm. He created protection for employees who reported misconduct. He approved counseling and trauma support for every employee and family affected by the investigation. He placed his own decisions under review. Charles stared at him. "You are giving strangers authority over the company. I am removing authority from men who believed trust made them invisible. And if the board removes you—" Roman looked at Evelyn's badge. "Then remove me." The meeting lasted 4 hours. 3 directors resigned before lunch. 2 senior security officers surrendered to police. Employees began submitting reports about threats, false invoices, and altered records that had been ignored for years. The company did not become cleaner in a day. It became louder. People who had spent years whispering began speaking in full voices. Roman returned to the hospital after sunset. Evelyn was sitting upright beside the window. Her right hand remained inside the brace. A physical therapist had left a rubber exercise ball on the table. She looked at Roman's face. "It is over. Grant and Daniel are in custody." Her shoulders lowered slightly. "Alive?" "Yes." Evelyn studied him. "You did not kill them?" "No." Why? Roman closed the door. "Because I wanted revenge." She waited. "You deserve justice." Evelyn looked at her hand. "That does not sound like you." "It was not." Roman moved toward the chair but did not sit until she nodded. He told her about the employee files, the Calder plan, and the intended war. He explained how Grant had expected Roman to destroy the wrong people. Evelyn listened without interrupting. When he finished, she asked, "Did you tell the board?" "Everything I could legally tell them." "And your part?" "Yes." She looked surprised. "I told them you warned me. I told them I failed to act." "Roman." "I did. You may lose the company. I may." She turned toward the city. For several minutes, neither spoke. Roman removed the silver fountain pen from his pocket. He placed it on the table between them. "I opened the drive. I assumed you did." The password was arrogant. It was accurate. A faint warmth entered her voice. Roman looked at her. "I love you." The warmth disappeared. He did not move closer. He did not reach for her. "I have loved you for longer than I understood what the feeling was. I called it trust because trust felt safer. I called it loyalty because loyalty gave me permission to accept everything you did without asking what it cost you." Evelyn's eyes filled. Roman continued. "I loved you badly, quietly when I should have spoken, selfishly when I should have noticed. I let your strength become an excuse not to protect you." She looked away. "I loved you too." The admission came softly. Roman's breathing stopped. Evelyn pressed her left hand against the blanket. That was part of the problem. Roman waited. I kept telling myself I stayed because the work mattered, because the employees needed someone who remembered them, because you needed someone who could see danger before it reached you. Her voice trembled. "But I stayed late because you were still there. I remembered Lucia's gifts because I wanted the people you loved to think you were better than you knew how to be." Roman lowered his eyes. "I made myself useful enough that neither of us had to ask whether I was happy." The room seemed to contract around them. Evelyn continued. "When you depended on me, it felt close enough to love." Roman looked at her. It was not enough. "No, I know." She wiped a tear from her face with her left hand. Roman did not offer to do it for her. He understood now that even tenderness could become an intrusion when it arrived without permission. "You owe me nothing," he said. Evelyn looked at him. Not forgiveness, not work, not love, not another chance. His voice roughened. "I wanted to tell you the truth without turning it into a request." Evelyn's tears fell silently. Roman stood. He placed the fountain pen within reach of her left hand. "When you decide what your life looks like after this, write it for yourself." He walked toward the door. Every instinct inside him told him to turn back, to ask whether she still loved him, to ask whether there was any future in which she might allow him near her again. He did not ask. His hand reached the door. "Roman." He stopped. Evelyn looked at the pen. "You remembered the sentence." He turned toward her. "I remember everything you say." This time she did not look away. Roman opened the door and left her with the silence, the morning waiting beyond the windows, and a future that belonged entirely to her. 6 months passed. Spring reached Chicago slowly. The last patches of gray snow disappeared from the shadows beneath the bridges. Trees along the river opened into pale green. Tour boats returned to the water, and office workers began carrying coffee outside as though sunlight were something they had earned by surviving winter. DeLuca Holdings looked different from the street. The black cars still awaited near the entrance, but there were fewer of them. The armed guards no longer stood in the center of the lobby where everyone had to pass beneath their eyes. Security officers wore visible identification and answered to an independent director Roman had not chosen. Inside glass walls had replaced the locked doors surrounding the executive floor. Employees could report misconduct through an outside company. Every complaint received a tracking number that senior management could not erase. Financial approvals required signatures from separate departments. Security teams could no longer access accounting records without written authorization. A counseling center occupied the lower floor where an unused conference hall had once stood. Roman passed it every morning. He never entered without an appointment. Some changes were easier to measure than others. 3 board members had resigned. 2 companies canceled contracts after Roman testified against Grant Holloway and Daniel Cross. Newspapers printed photographs of Roman walking into federal court beneath headlines that questioned whether cooperation made him a reformer or a traitor. Several old captains stopped answering his calls. One told Victor that Roman had allowed a woman to weaken the family. Roman closed the man's account, returned his investment, and removed his name from every DeLuca property. The company became smaller. For the first time, Roman did not mistake size for strength. At 12:15 on a Thursday afternoon, he sat alone in the employee cafeteria with a bowl of soup growing cold in front of him. Victor approached carrying coffee. "You are staring at it. I am considering it. It is soup Roman. It does not require strategy. Roman lifted the spoon. Victor sat across from him. The cafeteria remained quieter when Roman entered, but people no longer stopped speaking completely. An analyst laughed near the windows. Two assistants argued over a basketball game. A security officer carried his own tray instead of waiting for someone to bring it. Roman looked around. Do they still fear me? Yes. Roman set down the spoon. Victor drank his coffee. Less than before. That was almost comforting. I am getting older. Comfort exhausts me. Roman glanced toward the entrance. He did that more often than he admitted. Victor noticed every time. You have not called her? No. You know where she is? Yes. Evelyn had spent 3 months in Maine with her parents. Her mother's name was Margaret. Her father's name was Thomas. Roman knew that now because Victor had asked Evelyn whether he could send updates about the investigation. She agreed under one condition. No gifts. Roman obeyed. He did not send flowers, money letters, cars, doctors, or men to stand outside her parents' home. He sent nothing. It was the hardest form of respect he had ever practiced. After Maine, Evelyn returned to Chicago for physical therapy. She rented a small apartment near Lincoln Park and began consulting for a nonprofit that assisted victims of workplace violence. Roman learned these things only when they appeared in legal documents connected to Grant's trial. He did not ask anyone to follow her. He did not drive past her building. He did not create coincidences. Victor studied him. She asked about the company. Roman's eyes lifted. When? This morning. Why did she call you? She did not. She called the independent board. Roman looked toward the elevator. Victor smiled into his coffee. You should finish your lunch. Roman stood. I am finished. You ate 1 spoonful. It was not good. You never tasted it. Roman left the cafeteria. At 1:30 he entered the boardroom. Sunlight crossed the polished table. The river moved beyond the windows, bright beneath the spring sky. Every director was present. At the far end of the room stood Evelyn Hart. She wore a dark blue suit and held a folder against her chest. Her hair fell loosely across her shoulders. The shadows beneath her eyes had faded. Her right hand rested against the folder. The fingers did not close completely. Roman stopped inside the doorway. For 6 months he had imagined seeing her again. In some versions she turned away. In others she looked through him as though he were a stranger. He had never imagined the calm in her face. Hello, Evelyn. Hello, Roman. It was the first time she had used his first name inside the building. The sound reached him more deeply than any title ever had. Roman walked to his chair. He did not approach her. The board chair cleared her throat. Ms. Hart has presented a proposal. Evelyn placed copies in front of each director. Roman opened his. The first page carried a simple title, The Hart Initiative for Employee Safety and Recovery. He looked up. You named it after yourself. The board named it? A faint smile appeared. I voted against that part. The proposal established emergency financial assistance, independent safety investigations, trauma counseling, legal protection for whistleblowers, and education grants for employees' families. The program would be funded by the company outside charitable partners and money recovered from Grant's seized accounts. Roman turned each page slowly. Every policy had clear oversight. None depended on his personal authority. At the end of the meeting, the board approved the initiative without objection. The chair gathered her papers. There is one remaining signature. Roman looked at the final page. His name appeared beneath a blank line. I thought the board already approved it. It did, Evelyn said. Then my signature is not required. No. The others began leaving. Roman remained seated. Evelyn stood near the window. Why do you want it? She looked at him. Not as my employer. Then as what? as the man who admitted the system failed. Roman picked up the silver fountain pen beside the document. He recognized it immediately. You repaired it. The ink cartridge was damaged. And your hand. Evelyn looked down at her fingers. Better. Roman waited. Not the same, she added. He nodded. She did not need him to call the difference a tragedy. She needed him to see it. Roman signed his name. The pen moved smoothly across the paper. He returned it to her. Evelyn slipped it into her pocket. There is something else. Roman stood. She gave him a second document. Employment agreement. He read the title beneath her name. Director of Employee Protection and Ethics. Roman looked at her. You are coming back. I am joining the company. The distinction was deliberate. You will report to the board. Yes. Not to me. No. Roman placed the contract on the table. Good. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. That is all I am trying to become less controlling. How is that going poorly? A laugh escaped her. It was soft and surprised, as though it had arrived before she could stop it. Roman smiled. For one moment, the hospital, the basement, and the months between them did not vanish. They simply loosened their grip. Evelyn walked toward the door. Roman followed at a respectful distance. Employees looked up as she entered the executive floor. Elena Ruiz stood from her desk. Her hands covered her mouth. Evelyn crossed the room and embraced her. Elena began crying immediately. You did not tell me. I wanted to see your face. This is cruel. I learned from management. Several employees laughed. Roman remained near the conference room. People gathered around Evelyn. A janitor shook her hand. An analyst brought her a plant from the old office. A receptionist hugged her carefully and whispered something that made Evelyn close her eyes. Roman watched the room become warmer around her. She had not returned because he needed her. She had returned because the work belonged to her now. Near 5, the floor emptied. Evelyn stood inside her new office arranging files. The room overlooked the river, but sat 2 corridors away from Roman's. There was no connecting door. Roman knocked. She looked up. You are learning. I was told closed doors require permission. You were told that repeatedly. Roman entered after she nodded. A small plant sat near the window. The same one from her old desk. You kept it alive. Elena did. I killed 2 plants while you were gone. I am surprised the board did not investigate. Roman looked around. No schedule on the wall. I have my own. No coffee machine. There is one downstairs. He placed his hands inside his coat pockets. The silence between them no longer felt fragile. It felt unfinished. Are you staying in Chicago? I signed a 1-year contract. Roman nodded. That is good. Evelyn watched him. Did you come here to discuss my contract? No. What did you come to discuss? Roman looked toward the river. For the first time in his life, asking a woman to dinner felt more dangerous than entering a room with armed men. Would you have dinner with me? Evelyn said nothing. Roman continued. Not as my employee. Not as the person who remembers where I am supposed to be. Just dinner. Will there be bodyguards at another table? Phones off. Business forbidden. Her eyes narrowed. You will not last 20 minutes. I lasted 6 months without calling you. That was different. It was worse. Evelyn looked down, hiding the beginning of a smile. 1 dinner. Roman let out the breath he had been holding. I can work with 1. That sounds like a negotiation. It is the only language I speak fluently. Then learn another. She walked past him toward the elevator. Roman followed. The doors opened. Evelyn stepped inside, then turned and held them. 7 tomorrow. Roman checked the empty space where his assistant once would have stood with a tablet. I will remember. Evelyn gave him a knowing look. I will send a reminder. The doors closed on her smile. The following evening, Roman left his office at 6:30. No one had to remind him. He crossed the lobby without an entourage and stepped outside into the spring air. Evelyn waited near the Riverwalk in a dark coat. She was not carrying his schedule. He was not carrying a gun. Roman stopped beside her. For years, she had walked half a step behind him, close enough to hear every instruction and far enough to disappear from every photograph. This time, Roman waited. Evelyn looked at him then toward the lights along the river. Together, they began walking. Neither moved ahead.